You can't be a Christian or love America and support CRT. This video is brought to you by The Officer Tatum Store. The Officer Tatum Store. Get the merch link in the description section. Like and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell so you get notifications anytime I go live and make a video. Make sure you still subscribe to my channel. Hit that join button so you can join the Tatum Squad. Like this video, comment on this video, share this video. Let's get into this. Also, for a more in-depth community experience, go to tatumsquad.com, tatumsquad.com. You can get on the Discord channel, and it's more of a robust experience of being in the Tatum community. However, let's start talking about CRT, okay? CRT obviously is a theory. It's called critical race theory. The inception of the critical race theory was sprung in a legal theory, a legal argument in law school about how the laws and the justice system and how it relates to race and racial injustice. That's pretty much where it came from. Critical race theory is a theory on a collegiate level. There is no need, there is no reason, unless nefarious reasons, for you to try to perpetuate a distorted, illegitimate perception of a theory to kids, to young people who don't have the capacity to even diagnose these things and make a conscious decision about what they want to do with it moving forward. If this sprung out as a conversation about a legal theory in college, then that's where you need to have the legal theory. And that's where you need to have the theory, expand upon so people can critically think about it and make their decision. You should not be forcing this in the schools. Young people should not be even taking a glimpse at anything related to critical race theory. Let me talk about critical race theory just for a little bit, and then I want to debunk the fact that people who are claiming to be Christian can support critical race theory. People who claim to love this country to be able to support critical race theory. So let's start with the facts. Critical race theory, people distort it, people call it other things, but the gist of it is saying that white people should be held accountable for the past of people who happen to have the same skin tone. Not that that's their lineage, because 60% or so of white people who are here today, they migrated after slavery. Now, just because a person look like you or at least have the same similar skin color don't mean that you share the same lineage. The same thing is with black folks. How do you know your ancestors didn't come from Africa after slavery? How did you know your ancestors weren't a part of the indentured servants in the North who were never a part of slavery? How do you know that, your ancestors didn't have a temporary time in slavery? It wasn't a part of the slavery institution for longer than a small period of time. How do you know? What if your ancestor was Frederick Douglass? What if your ancestor was Booker T. Washington? People who overcame slavery and became somebody great out from slavery. All right, so you don't know, but they're teaching young white kids that their ancestors, their connective ancestors, were brutalizing, beating, hating, and doing devilish, evil things to black people, and which are the ancestors of everybody that you see that's brown. Whether it's true or not, that's what they're perpetuating. But they're not telling the full story, because they're not telling you that slavery was never really about racism, about race at all. It was availability of slave labor, cheap labor, which African people enslaved their own people first and then dashed them out around the whole country, around the entire world for them to be slaves. America was the first to abolish. America was the first to have the concept of inalienable rights given to you by God, the first in the world to espouse those principles. So to think that we were founded on nefarious means is untrue. Look at documents from the founding fathers. Even though sometimes they did not live up to it, they still understood that it was improper, it was wrong, it wasn't godly to continue down the path of slavery. That's why you see during the Civil War, that it didn't lead more slavery into our world. Slavery was abolished after the Civil War because the leading narrative was that slavery was improper and is not upholding the Constitution or the rights that we've been afforded to by God. We could see all those things coming to fruition. We could see, once we gained our independence, believing that we weren't going to be a part of a monarchy, believe in self-sustainability and independence. All of those things are incredible principles that we founded with in this country that has led us to this point of being great, led us to this point of overcoming our differences and our mistakes. Let me tell you how you cannot be a Christian and espouse these principles. One thing is Christianity is founded on forgiveness and reconciliation. And if you are pushing an agenda that's seeking revenge or restitution, that means you have not forgiven people. That means you have not forgiven the past. You have not forgiven people in the past that may have done wrong. And you don't believe in reconciling the people that are alive today back to the fold of success moving forward. You don't believe that. And if you're a Christian and you're standing on principles of unforgiveness, then what are you actually doing? There is no reason that we shouldn't be forgiving people who own slaves in this country. Why, Mr. Tatum? Think about the brainwashing that had to occur when you have a person who owns slaves and they have children, and these children grow up with the perception that that is normal. How is it fair to them that they didn't get to choose whether or not they were introduced into slavery? They didn't get to choose whether or not they were introduced in an environment where they happened to be the slave owner or family of a slave owner. They didn't have the choice to be introduced into a society where Jim Crow was law. How can you not have forgiveness for people who are growing up in ignorance? That's because you don't want forgiveness, you want revenge. How can you be pro-American and espouse these anti-American principles? This is the greatest country on planet Earth. The greatest success you'll ever see in any race will occur on this soil. Where are the most prominent, wealthiest black people in the world? In America. The per capita income of black people in America is, I think if you look at the economic success of black people, the spending power, the black community in America would be the 15 richest country in the world. Just the black people in America. Our poorest amongst us are the top 1% earners in the world. I mean, in the world when it comes to these poor third world countries. I mean, our poorest people would be the richest people in many of these countries. The poorest, the ones who get free health care, free housing, free food. You go down the list. The poorest people amongst us get everything for free. So they would have it better in America as a poor homeless man than you would have in many of these countries, even if you weren't poor and homeless. Only in America can you do these things. Only in America can you put together a melting pot full of people and embrace a multitude of cultures and actually make things incredibly successful. You can't see that anywhere else. And if you believe you can, then go live in that country and you tell me how it goes for you. Why have these billionaire black people not moved out of America? I'm just saying, if America was so incredibly racist, why does Oprah Winfrey live in America when she have billions of dollars? Her net worth is billions of dollars. She got hundreds of millions of dollars at her disposal. Why is Kanye West was just named the richest black person alive ever in history, worth multiple billions of dollars? Why did he still live in America if America is so racist? Jay-Z and Beyonce, $1 billion couple. I think each one of them are worth $1 billion apiece. Why do they still live in America, ladies and gentlemen? Why? Yeah, because America isn't racist. Yeah, because America is the greatest country on planet Earth. That's why. But people are being misinformed. They're being tricked into believing in systems that teach us to hate one another. Critical race theory is one of those systems that when you're young, you don't know how to diagnose the truth, and you haven't had enough life experience to be able to debunk theories, you fall for it. And there becomes a level of white resentment, white hate, white guilt, and white revenge. And that revenge creates a situation of black victimhood, black guilt, not black guilt, but black victimhood, black revenge. And it goes down a cycle of hating each other. And every election cycle, they bring it up again, racism, 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 which this country has been separated from for a very long time. And we either gonna move forward or we're gonna keep living in the past. And this country wasn't perfect to anybody in the past. Anybody. Indentured servants, black indentured servants in the North were better off than whites who migrated here during that period of time where they had indentured servitude in the North. Why? Because black people had a constant income and they had a promise that once their indentured servitude was over, that they were promised land, they were promised money, they were promised things that they were able to receive that put them in a better position than white people who just migrated here who had absolutely nothing. Do your research. All you got to do is do your research. They tell these stories without the full context. If only you knew the abolitionist movement was a majority white movement of white Christians who had a huge hand in the Underground Railroad and the freeing of black slaves. And I learned this from my good friend, Jeff Utch, is that people don't understand in the North when slavery was abolished that there were abolitionists who came down and started schools and started opportunities for previous black slaves. Why don't you read the story of Booker T. Washington? Why don't you read the story of Frederick Douglass? People who were slaves and were free and became great men in this country right after slavery. In their generation, they were slaves and became some of the greatest men to ever live right after slavery. And you knuckleheads can't do nothing 100 years later. Y'all complaining, and these black men who were once slaves have done incredible things. Things in which, and I think Booker T. Washington started the Tuskegee University. And y'all can't do nothing now. Y'all can't do nothing. Crying, moping, sitting on the couch, having babies out of wedlock. And you want to complain about your condition. And these black men are changing the world. George Washington Carver, changing the world. Nowhere near the 60s, changing the world. And y'all can't even get up and go work at McDonald's or something and make a living without selling drugs and going to jail. Steady complaining. White people steady being guilty. White privilege is the most racist, acknowledging white privilege is the most racist thing that I have seen in modern history. Because if you believe in white privilege, then that means that as a white person, you believe that you're better than me. You believe that you're better than me. You believe that you're better than me. That's why you have a privilege over me, and you're going to always be above me. That's what you believe. Because nobody that talks about white privilege have a solution to the problem. Well, how do you cure white privilege? If you are inherently born, because it's the color of your skin, you have a privilege over black people, how do you stop that? You ain't going to stop being born white. And you're not going to stop living in a white majority country, especially when black people are having abortions at breakneck speed and going to prison and killing each other. And it's still 13% of the population decades later. How are you going to stop it? Oh, no, you're going to always believe and teach your children that they have a benefit over black people. And that people look down on black people. That creates a mindset in them that they start to see black people as less than. They start to see things that people do to black people as less than when it has nothing to do with the color of the skin, but the content of somebody's character. Now, I'm going to get off this soapbox, but I want to talk about CRT just a little bit and give my perspective because I think it's just getting overlooked. That they're espousing anti-American rhetoric that's not even consistent with the Constitution, not even consistent with the founding of this country, not consistent with the growth potential that people have already been able to take advantage of. If you put all the black billionaires in this country and they work together, they can single-handedly revitalize the black community. I think I said revitalize. That ain't even a word. Revitalize ain't a word. Y'all know what word I'm trying to use. They can really recreate the black community and make it better. They can go and buy up these poor black areas and revise it, renovate, give people opportunities. They can create a black bank. They can do all these things. They can go to HBCUs and pay for everybody student loan debt for all the black people that come through HBCUs. The billionaire black people in America could do that. But they don't want to. Because they know they don't owe black people nothing. And they didn't made theirs. They'll get on their high horse and pump the fist up and say Black Lives Matter, but they ain't finna do nothing significant. They're not finna give up a few houses to pay for anybody to finish school. They ain't finna pay off no student loan debt. You talking about the net worth of Oprah Winfrey? I can go down the list. All these black people that are incredibly successful. They can pay for. They can probably take out a large majority of student loan debt from young black Americans. But they ain't gonna do that because they got a Maserati to buy, and they got big chains that they want to wear in high end fashion and private jets. Now I don't mind that, But why you complaining when you can actually do something about it, but you ain't gonna do it? Anyway, like and subscribe to the channel. Y'all know the drill. I'll see you on the next one.